For almost a decade, fantasy fans have been living in a constant state of disappointment, watching massive budgets turn into empty sets and entire worlds fall apart in the hands of clumsy showrunners. But just when hope of returning to that real Westeros was almost gone, HBO released a project that seems to wipe away the mistakes of recent years and bring the genre back to what it's supposed to be. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms isn't just another spin-off. Right now, it feels like a full-scale revival of the entire Game of Thrones franchise, finally giving audiences what they've been desperately searching for in the endless, soulless knockoffs from competitors. So let's dive in right now and figure out what this new, completely different version of Game of Thrones actually turned out to be, why this approach won audiences over, and what these new discoveries might mean for future projects set in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. So, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, in case you somehow missed it, is a compact 6-episode prequel to Game of Thrones, based on the tales of Dunk and Egg. They're short stories, but incredibly colorful ones, written by George Martin, set about a century before the events of the main series. And at the center of it all is an unlikely duo. Dunk, a powerful, kind-hearted, but not exactly quick-witted poor knight, and Egg, a sharp, clever young member of the royal dynasty. Two completely different people, whose paths collide long before the political storms that will later shake Westeros.
No, I've no need for a squire, lad.
Every knight needs a squire. You look like you need one more than most.
So who are our heroes? Sir Duncan the Tall grew up in the slums of King's Landing. He is not an aristocrat and not an heir. He quite literally fought his way into knighthood from poverty, and possibly the ancestor of Brienne of Tarth. Yes, that Brienne from Game of Thrones. Think about it. Dunk is huge, physically powerful, taller than most men in Westeros. Brienne is one of the tallest women in the entire universe. But that's only the beginning. They are both deeply driven by honor. They protect the weak, even when it is not to their advantage. They stand against the system when they see injustice. And there is another interesting detail. In the books, Brienne finds an old shield bearing Dunk's sigil, the falling star and the tree. Martin does not write details like that without purpose. If this is true, then it forms a striking parallel. The story of true knighthood begins with Dunk, and decades later continues through Brienne. And Egg, also known as Aegon V Targaryen, the future king of the Seven Kingdoms from House Targaryen. And this is where the drama begins, because he is not a typical Targaryen. He grew up among common people. He saw how peasants lived. He knew what poverty was. And when he becomes king, he truly tries to change things. He wants to limit the power of the lords and grant more rights to ordinary people. He wants to make the system fairer. The problem is that the nobility of Westeros hates such reforms. A king who protects the small folk is dangerous to the lords. And then comes the tragedy at Summerhall, a mysterious fire and the death of the king. Many believe that this became the turning point. After it begins the path toward the Mad King. And then, the fall of House Targaryen. The most humane king ultimately sets in motion the most devastating chain of events. And that is what makes the story of Dunk and Egg far deeper than it seems at first glance.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
No one expected anything powerful from this prequel. After all, how could it compete with Game of Thrones and its hundreds of storylines? Or with House of the Dragon, with its fire-breathing dragons and a civil war sweeping across all of Westeros. And yet, this series turned out to be a genuine revelation of the year. From its very first frames, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms delivers a crushing blow to all the clutter that has recently been passed off as epic fantasy, whether it's the caricatured and showrunner-mangled The Witcher, or the CGI-heavy and agenda-laden The Rings of Power. The key to the series' success, in my view, lies in its fundamental approach. Its creators finally abandoned attempts to outsmart the audience or to reinvent classic heroic archetypes, returning instead to the format of a true historical drama set in a fantasy world. While the later seasons of Game of Thrones were drowning in plot holes and misplaced grandiosity, and House of the Dragon was slowly sinking into endless political intrigue and emotionally distant characters, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms offered a simple, yet remarkably powerful story about honor, dignity, and the search for one's place in a harsh world.
We hang you, naked, by your hands and your feet, lower you down, asshole first, onto a sharpened point, and fuck you dry.
There are no unnecessary scenes here, no artificially stretched dialogues in dark rooms, or anything else that turns the viewing experience into a drag. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms moves at a brisk pace, focusing on the chemistry between Duncan and Aegon, where the small runaway prince and the simple-minded giant knight form a duo comparable in strength to the best pairs from the original series. This adaptation respects the intelligence of its audience and treats George Martin's text with care, following it not page by page, but faithfully in spirit, something reflected in its high ratings. That said, the writer himself did express dissatisfaction, for example, with the opening scene in which Duncan decides to relieve himself behind a tree, pointing out that nothing of the sort appears in his books. And indeed, some details in the series may seem overly naturalistic, but at the same time, it is not afraid to use dark humor and grounded moments.
Do you like goose eggs?
Such scenes serve as a way to instantly strip away any grandiosity and immerse us in the atmosphere of a grim medieval world, where death may come not from dragonfire, but from something as mundane as indigestion. The directorial vision of Ira Parker, precisely aligned with the expectations of an audience tired of competitors' mediocrity, turns A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms into something of a phenomenon, one capable of rebooting the entire genre. And if HBO continues in this direction, we may be witnessing the beginning of a new golden era of Game of Thrones, where Westeros once again captures the imagination of millions, reminding everyone what it truly means to be the king of fantasy. That's how it stands. So now I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about the series in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything interesting, and give the video a thumbs up. Thanks to everyone for watching.